Ever heard of an island where the trees make redwoods look like bonsai? I mean, we're talking huge EE. And get this, the animals, some of them, they bear fruit, like actual fruit grows right on them.
It's like something out of a fantasy novel, isn't it?
Totally. And the people there, they build their homes out of bones. You really couldn't make this up. This deep dive, it's taking us to a place, well, unlike any other.
Talk about nature's creativity running wild, right? But even in this environment, and it has an incredible one, those same laws of balance we see everywhere else, they still apply, just on a much grander scale, of course.
We're talking about the Jigi Boega, and their whole deal is that they believe harming any living thing, anything at all, disrupts the balance of their island.
It's a fascinating concept.
So no hunting, which makes you wonder even more about those bone houses, right? They only use what nature, what nature provides naturally, I guess you could say.
It makes you think about death and decomposition in a whole new light. Not as something to be feared, but as an integral part of life.
Yeah.
And to use those resources, those remains, it's deeply respectful. It speaks to this incredible efficiency that they've woven into their way of life.
Yeah, very much like the ecosystem itself. And speaking of cycles, they've got this annual thing, the Feast of Silence. It's where things get, well, really interesting. Imagine skull lanterns, but instead of candles, they're lit by these bioluminescent insects. And there's music, but the instruments are crafted from bone.
It's a celebration of that cycle of life, death, and that delicate balance they represent.
It's a little hard to picture, honestly. I mean, what does a bone xylophone even sound like?
I don't know, but I bet it's pretty amazing. It really does make you question our own cultural relationship with death, doesn't it? The Jigi Boega, they've managed to weave it into the fabric of their existence in this incredibly beautiful and honest way.
It does make you think, okay, so they've got this incredible way of life, this profound connection to their environment, and it all seems to work until, well, it doesn't. Lately, the sky groves, these massive, massive trees that sustain the Jigi Boega, they've just stopped bearing fruit. And to make matters worse, animals are vanishing into these really dense forests, and these whispers, they're supposedly coming from a grove of darkened, like twisted trees right at the island's heart.
Okay, so now we're starting to see that idea of balance come back into play. Each of those events worrying on their own, but together they point to something bigger, right? It's like a domino effect. One thing falls, and the whole system starts to destabilize.
And this is where it gets good. Because like any good story, you need some characters. We've got Kelek, this super curious kid who discovers, or rather hears, the whispers coming from those twisted trees.
Whoa, hold on. Imagine being a kid and hearing a tree talk. That would spark anyone's curiosity.
Right. Then there's Mira. She's the village historian, and she is losing her mind trying to figure out why the sky groves have gone barren. Like, those trees are everything to them.
Hey, that's their source of food, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And as if that wasn't enough, Tali, the village healer, she starts to notice the animals are acting really strangely. Skittish. Like they can sense something bad is about to happen.
Makes sense, right? Animals, they've got those finely tuned senses. They're so in tune with their surroundings that they often pick up on changes long before we do.
Like a sixth sense.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that it's happening to all of them, not just one or two species, that suggests something is seriously out of whack.
Totally. Oh, and get this. Even the animals that are like vital to the Jigi Boega's survival, even they're disappearing into these forests.
So it's impacting every level of the ecosystem, even the creatures they depend on for survival. You have to wonder how they've managed to maintain that balance, that harmony for so long, and what could have happened to disrupt it so suddenly.
Yeah. And as if to underline that point, right in the middle of the Feast of Silence, this bone-chilling wind just tears through, snuffs out those crazy lanterns, and silences the bone instruments.
Talk about a mood killer.
Mm.
But more than that, it's like the island itself is trying to tell them something, grab their attention. Remember, this is a culture that believes everything is connected. So that wind, that's not just weather, that's a sign. A warning that something is very, very wrong.
So you've got this eerie silence, right, falling over what's supposed to be this vibrant celebration. What do? Just sit around and wait for the worst to happen.
Not if they know anything about survival, right?
And these are people who've really figured that out.
Exactly. This is the Jigi Boega we're talking about. They listen to their island. And so Kelek, our curious kid, he comes back into play.
Right, because someone's got to get to the bottom of this.
He, along with Mira and Tali, they convince some of the other villagers that this silent grove, it needs investigating.
Which makes sense, yeah.
But here's the thing. They bring Daro with them. He's the one who makes all those bone instruments. the musician.
I'm not sure I follow. Why a musician? It's not like a happy tune is going to fix a dying forest, right? Or is it?
Well, think about it. Music, it has this incredible way of resonating, would you say, creating harmony,
Mm.
even in the most unexpected places.
That's true, yeah.
For the Jigi Boega, music is how they connect to, like, the very soul of their world. It's more than just entertainment. Bringing Daro along suggests this isn't just about figuring out what's wrong. It's about restoring something that's been broken, something elemental.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just a rescue mission, it's more like a pilgrimage.
Exactly. They're searching for answers, but also for a way to heal. Oh, and I haven't even gotten to the best part. They bring Anka, too. She's the one who can talk to the animals.
Wait, hold on. Communicate with them, you mean? Like actually understand what they're saying.
Yep. Think about it, someone who can understand the whispers of the wind, the rustling of leaves, even the calls of the animals. It's like having a living, breathing encyclopedia of the natural world right there with you. So they set off, this little group, each of them with their own unique skills and perspectives, and they journey to the heart of the island, into the silent grove.
Okay, so I have to ask, what's it like, this silent grove? Paint us a picture.
Imagine, if you will, you've spent your entire life surrounded by lush greens, vibrant blues, the sights and sounds of a healthy, thriving island. And then suddenly, you're in this place where the trees are twisted, gnarled. Their bark is blackened, almost as if they're being consumed from the inside out.
That's creepy.
The air is thick, heavy, and the sunlight, it barely reaches through the dense canopy above. It's like stepping into a distorted reflection of the world they know.
Yeah.
And at the center of it all, a tree.
Just a tree. That seems a little anticlimactic.
Not just any tree. This thing, it's massive, ancient. Even the grandest sky groves, in comparison. Its bark, it pulses with this internal light. It's eerie, this glow. It seems to drain the life from everything around it. Remember how we were talking about the sky groves being barren? This light, this energy, it's like a visual representation of the island's very life force being slowly siphoned away. It's mesmerizing and terrifying at the same time.
No wonder they call it the Silent Grove. It sounds less like a grove and more like a graveyard. So what do they do? How do you even approach something like that?
Well, Mira, remember, she's the keeper of their history, their stories. She steps forward. She understands this isn't just some scientific anomaly, that this is something older, something woven into the very fabric of their island. She offers a prayer, but it's not for protection. Not exactly. It's for understanding.
What happens? Does the ancient tree answer her prayer?
Well, let's just say the response is not what they were expecting. Picture this. The tree itself, it starts to contort, its bark splits open, and it forms this giant gaping maw. Honestly, it's the stuff of nightmares.
Okay, that sounds terrifying.
And from this maw, this wound in the tree, emerges a being, a spirit old as the island itself. But here's where it gets really interesting, because this being, this embodiment of the island's pain,
Yeah.
it's not angry. It's not there to punish them for what they've done.
What really
It's
happened?
sad, weary.
That's not what I was expecting at all. That's like finding out the monster under your bed just wants a hug.
Exactly. We are so used to the idea that power, especially when it's hurting, comes with anger, with fury. But this spirit, this being that has every right to be furious with the Jigi Boega for what they've done, it's heartbroken. And that heartbreak, it speaks volumes.
This is heavy stuff, man. They've got this ancient being, basically the island's soul, telling them they messed up. So what do? Do they even try to fix it?
Well, think about the Jigi Boega, right?
Yeah.
Their whole thing is respecting that balance, that cycle of life and death. They don't shy away from it. They face it head on.
So no offering up a year's worth of fruit from those sky groves, assuming they even recover.
That's just it. Balance, true balance. It's not about transactions. You can't just throw something at a problem and expect it to disappear. This spirit, it makes it clear that what the Jigi Boega need to do is rediscover their place.
They got too comfortable, huh?
Yeah, in a way. Living
Yeah.
in this harmonious complacency, I guess you could say. Taking battle, but not really giving back. It's like we were saying earlier. They've been so focused on not doing harm that they forgot about actively nurturing.
And that's where things get really interesting, even for those of us who, don't live on an island with giant talking trees, because their situation, it actually reflects something much bigger about how we interact with the natural world.
Exactly.
We're all about conservation these days, right? Reducing our footprint, cutting back on pollution, all that, which is important, don't get me wrong, but is it enough?
That's the question the spirit is asking the Jigi Boega, and by extension, us. It's not demanding they give up their way of life,
Yeah.
just Evolve it.
Go from just existing to actively caring.
Exactly. They need to understand that they belong to the earth in the same way that it belongs to them.
No, that is a powerful message. It's not about reducing harm. It's about actively restoring, regenerating, giving back to the very systems that keep us alive.
And honestly, I think it's a hopeful message because it tells us that we have the power to tip the scales. Maybe not through these grand gestures, but through small, everyday acts of awareness, intention, respect. Even the tiniest actions can have an impact. They can ripple outwards.
So as we leave the Jigi Boega at this crossroads, facing this monumental task of changing their entire way of being, we're left with a question for ourselves. How can we, in our own lives, move beyond simply reducing harm and actually embrace a more reciprocal relationship with nature? What will our legacy be? That's something to think about.
It really is.
This is host speaker name.
An expert speaker name.
Signing off on this deep dive into the extraordinary world of the Jigi Boega. We'll see you next time, and until then, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep the conversation going.